V from the LOG, coming to you live, baby, live. And we are doing Getting Color. And today, I know we usually have Virtue on, but I have acquired an acquisition who has been all over the media, social media. I'm talking the Russo brand. This guy has been on TMZ. Guy has been on ABC. He is the best from the rest. This is Ben Hamin. Ben, how are you doing today?
Y'all love Big Vito. That's right. I've got diplomatic immunity, so the FBI can't take me down. I'm a CIA operative ready to get them hard-weighed right in the eye, and we'll get some color here today as it's a hardcore Russo brand reunion, infidels, all the way back to OVW right here on Big Vito brand. It's Hacker Hamin. Y'all.
All right. Yeah, here with Allah. I know Mike Tyson was with the Allah one time, so we're all good. All right, Ben. I know I get on you on social media, and I know I grind your gears. But if I didn't like you, I wouldn't play with you. But know how I say, listen, you haven't been nowhere or where you've been. Now, today, you could say you have been to the best, to the top. You're better than the WWE. You're with the BIGV from the LOG. You made it. You're better than Stevie Richards. You're better than Stevie Ray. You're better than, Shane Douglas, and whatever other jobbers there are. You are prime time. You were Getting Color. Ben, thank you for coming on today. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad to be in the main event with you, Big V. There's no doubt about it, man. And I've been waiting to get my button a long time for the books to get open so I could be a made guy. So after this, nobody can touch me anymore. No more getting drinks. No more doing being at the shop at a certain time. I'm the one calling the shots. So thank you, Vito, for proposing me, man. I appreciate it.
I'm telling you, I heard at the Russo brand, you're sharpening pencils. You're running for coffee. He has you fly up to Colorado on your dime. Yeah. I mean, that's not how we do things here. All right.
No, I'm glad to switch families. I'm glad to be over here.
The Russo family is cheap, yo. I mean, they are cheap. They ain't paying us nothing. And can you do a little bit of this? And can you do a little bit of that? God forbid you get a Christmas gift or something, a fruit basket at your door. It doesn't happen. I hate Vince Russo.
You might get a horse's head in your bed if you're not careful. No, everything's up.
All right, Ben. Why don't you tell the people what you're about and what you're doing? Because there might be some people who don't know. First time on the Getting Color. Tell the people what you're about, where you've been, what you've been doing. Tell me about your wrestling career, because I really don't know.
Yeah, man. Well, I've been in this game, in the wrestling game, for about 13 years, going on 14 now. And, when I came to OVW, I'd always been a fan since I was 8 years old, and I was an ECW super fan. Every iteration of it, from when you had to chase it on New York local stations all the way through, and obviously a WWF, WWE guy my whole life as well, being from New York. And I went and did comedy for a long time in Chicago and improvisation. I came up in theater as a song and dance kid, and doing as much performance as I could of what was available to me. And then studying with the best in Chicago, pretty much everybody who's on HBO now, and Mad TV and Saturday Night Live is a lot of people I came up with. So I was smart enough to say, screw that. I want to go to wrestling and not be famous. So I went to, so I went to OVW and signed up there and trained with Rip Rogers and Al Snow and Danny Davis. And Robert Gibson was there at the time, Dr. Death, a lot of people coming through, and you as well. And it was like for me, that was big. Like, you see a lot of these guys come through, but when Big Sal and Vito showed up and Roadkill, being an ECW diehard, man, I was like, this is what I'm about right here. You know what I mean? So you were really focused on, coming off your E-run and doing what they were wanting you to do. So I wouldn't expect you to remember some knockaround students at the time, but after you had kind of left, and Danny, I remember Danny Davis's father had passed. They gave the book to me and Adam Revolver and Ted McNailer, who's also on Hamin Media Group with me. And we worked on the student show for 50 episodes.
Mhm.
And then we were given the main TV show. So I wrote about 120 episodes of TV all in there. And I was managing the insurgency because during the war, it was 2006 to 2008. Every day on Fox News was insurgency, insurgency, insurgency. And Rip's like, you Packies are going to be the insurgency. So I just started growing the beard, and I can do any character that you want, being an improviser. And Khalil and Ali and I and Turk, three legit dudes of Middle Eastern descent were all together. And then even Serena Deeb joined us as well eventually. So it was an unbelievable master's degree education in OVW from many people and getting to work with many stars. I was living the dream, so to speak, man. So
All good, man. Now tell me, what did you now do? You being an ECW fan, and
mhm.
this is not a knock,
No.
but what did you like most about ECW? Now talk about the time I was there, and I think Stevie had left before
Mhm.
either when I got there or right after. But tell me about the time, like from when I was there, since you're a fan. Tell the people what you liked about Skull Von Crush. Tell them what you liked about the ECW brand, the Baldies, the hardcore matches.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. You were getting something that was way different than what you were getting in a mainstream, watered down product. And you were getting a TV mature product, whether it was swearing or you guys being over the top on characters, and it felt like our thing. That's the thing you guys did, and especially you. You were always great interacting with the crowd, even if you were just in there to face off with somebody and get the crowd more fired up and working. We got to be whatever it was in basketball, six man. You know what I mean? To be that part of taking over the show, and you don't got to wrestle once that you got the crowd at that level. You're giving them their money's worth, man. So you were always able to switch whatever you needed to do from Skull Von Crush to FBI stuff and play it up New York wise, and the blood and guts, you could get that from Sabu, you could get that from Axel and Balls, or you could get it from you guys, but it was guys that I always liked. And this is even WWF, when it was Hogan and Macho on top, I was always about perfect, and I was about the mid card. And when it was, even Shane and those guys on top, I enjoyed it. But for me, it was like you guys, the Shaw, I like the guys who were like the workaday dudes. And I think that's just because my dad is kind of that like blue collar, like put your goddamn boots on, go out there and chop wood, carry water mentality.
So you like the mentality of the worker. Now, I consider myself a worker in the business, a man who put in his time,
Mhm.
went to every territory, learned every different system. And then when it came time for me to shine, I carried the ball, got over what I needed to do. But I never would you say, I wasn't Taz and I had the heavyweight title. I wasn't Mike Awesome. But when it came time to have matches with these guys, you were like, yo, you got to watch Vito. I'm telling you, this guy's got
Yeah.
it. And that's what helped me is the experience of learning. You mentioned some great guys. Like I wrestled with Dr. Death Steve Williams in All Japan,
Mhm.
right? You talk about Robert Gibson. I wrestled with him in Memphis with the Rock and Roll Express. I
Totally,
was
two totally different ends of the spectrum in psychology.
exactly. And when you talk about Southern wrestling, and you talk about Puerto Rican wrestling and Santa Dominican wrestling, those are the last of the territories. And you're very knowledgeable in this, and you're very astute to be a student of the game
Mm.
and look at things from a different aspect now as a journalist and analyst and somebody who's a commentator on doing the Vince Russo brand because you do commentate on Raw and SmackDown.
Mhm.
So your views are very articulate when you speak and you talk about the development of characters and the development of the business, and you understand the concept. For me, Wrestling 101 works for me. You don't need to do all the stuff they're doing today. If they went back to Wrestling 101 when a super kick was the finish, a splash was the finish, a DDT was the finish, I think wrestling would go back to normal. But Ben, you watch and you develop and you see, and you watch a lot more, like we discussed before the show. I watch highlights, I read. That's how I get my knowledge because I have a couple more years on you. So I understand a little more. But your views, you're that more innovative, up to date young guy in the business who has 13 years of experience from behind the scenes, and you look at it different. Tell us how you look at it from that point.
Yeah, well, I look at everything through an improv lifestyle, which is yes and instead of no but, and that's just what facilitates better business, better ideas, and everybody having ownership of something.
Okay.
Where I've seen the WWE style, where everything is walked through. Royal Rumbles are walked through, eliminate, and it just kills the magic. And that's what ECW had, was that magic. And they said that because, yes, we're going to do these things and we're going to take it to the next level. We're not going to just shut things down. We're open to this and we're going to hide our faults. And I was at OVW when Steve Kern came through with Triple H and Shawn, and we're like, the OVW will always be a developmental for WWE. 6 months later, lights go off, you know. So,
do you know what happened to me at OVW?
Go ahead.
When I was going back and forth. Now, I think you remember when I was off the road, I am the only guy who would go to Deep South Wrestling, get on a plane, go to OVW, come home, right? And wait for calls. So I kept working. I never sat home and collected a check. Never once.
No, you were at Rip's practice, man. That was an honor to get to chain with you at that time. For me, I was like, I'm rotten as fuck, and here I'm getting to work with these guys, man. I can only get better.
Right. So like guys appreciated that. And then there was a time at OVW where the ritual was the young guys always had to take apart and put together the ring. And what did Big Vito do? Just to set an example. I'm prideful.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the first time I ever did it. They said, Vito, you're on the take apart crew. I said, I'm here. I said, oh, I got to learn how to put together a ring sometime. I never did it before. So I used to do the put together. And the guys in OVW said, Vito, you don't have to do that. No, I'll do the rest. I'm here. I got to wait for a ride home. So I would do the take apart. And setting an example for the guys that you're never too big to do the little things.
Absolutely.
The little things count the most.
Absolutely.
And the one thing that happened in OVW was you mentioned Steve Kern. Okay. Steve Kern is a great guy. I love him to death. Now, Steve Kern and Mike Bucci came down. I was doing the Muay Thai gimmick at the time.
Right.
I think I had perfected it. I trained in Muay Thai. I learned everything, changed my whole style. They came down and said, Vito, you are ready for TV the next week. We're going to bring you up. Yeah, they brought me up for a release. I swear to God, this happened. You could ask Mike Bucci. You could, and if you ever talk to Steve Kern, they told me the week I got, Vito, you're ready for TV. I said, great. I says, good. I says, excellent. I don't mind being here. I like being with the guys. I like working. That's fine. And then when I got released, I was like, I did the dress gimmick on an honorable thing. I worked. And Vince told me, he said, what gimmick would you like to do? I said, would it be okay if I did this Muay Thai gimmick? Nobody's done it. I look like the guy. He says, okay, Vito, go ahead and do it. Took the pictures, did everything, went down, worked with you guys. And then the release, the screw job.
Yeah.
Now, in OVW that you've been there, how many screw jobs have there been with talent that has been working and you thought that we're going to go up and then they get cut? Tell me.
I mean, there's the short run that way. I've heard other ones that are just as bad, but not that, because you were up there and came back to do that and then went. And a lot of guys are getting there and then get shots, but they have to live in Louisville and stay there. And I've seen them play guys out when it was Damian Sandow. And
there's a guy who took something from nothing, worked his ass off, did the Miz duplicate, was great, was funny, was primetime TV. That guy you thought had a job. He had everything.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And he was tagging with Casey James. They were just doing random on SmackDown. There was Casey James and Aaron the Idol Stevens. He wasn't even Damian Sandow yet, but they had them so wound up week to week. And dude, KC would be self-medicating and be in the corner half passed out, and Idol would be there with having an anxiety attack with his shoulders going up and down, bro. Like he couldn't catch his breath, like he was blown up. Like they would just have these guys wound so tight, man. So that, and I remember when Sean Spears and Mike Cruel and them went to TV and they were on top at OVW as the champ, and they thought they were over and all that, and they tested them there too about, oh, somebody get in the ring, who's got their gear, and neither of them had their stuff like under and ready to go, and they missed their opportunity, man. And they wait in the cut, you know, to hit you with the snake strike when you're least expecting it, man. And that's not the way I do things. The reason I stand out, I feel, is because of my improv background, where it's a group mindset, where if I'm going to fail and pimp you out, we're only going to look cheap and we're going to look pimped out. If I really support your idea and you're supporting mine, there's no ceiling to where we can go with that, because I'm trusting you and I'm not saying no to your ideas, and you're doing the same thing to me, where their pettiness and their want to set somebody up and draw you in after you've been doing the miles to create something new and not even give it an attempt on and dude, everybody in the FBI from Tracy Smothers, you, Nunzio, even Mama Luke, you said this with Awesome and Taz, those guys are awesome because of how you guys make them look. And that's not just from, oh, the fans say, oh, he beat that guy, he's a piece of shit. No, we know to take an awesome bomb from the top rope. Ain't nobody in the crowd's going, me next. You know what I mean? So you get that love. That's saying yes and. That's saying yes and to the crowd, that I'm going to take this, oh my God, stunt bump for your enjoyment, for a fan group of sometimes 500 people to 2,000 instead of your 80,000. And that's because I love wrestling and I love you guys. And you're saying that when you do those things, and it's not lost on a crowd like 2CW. So to try and take it all back, that's where I think the magic really is in the dedication to this, man.
Now, do you remember the night I wrestled Sid? Do you remember that night?
Sorry, but I don't want to drink in the mic, man. The night you wrestled Sid, I would have to go back and watch. I'm sure I watched it live though.
Now, this is what happened. Paul Lee, I was off that night. They gave me off. They went to 3 guys and they wanted to build Sid to wrestle Taz.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there and I had earned my keep. You know what I mean? I was doing my thing, and they said, yeah, Vito, you're off tonight. I said, okay. So Paulie comes walking over to me. He says, Vito, he says, I asked 3 other guys. He says, I need you tonight. I said, what do you need? He says, I need you to wrestle Sid. And I said, okay. He says, you know what I want? I says, yeah. That's all he said to me. That's all I said to him. So we go out, and there I am. I'm lame duck. I know what I have to do because I have the years of experience, right? And nobody told me this. I go out. I take this bump over the top rope through a table. It was the first time I ever did anything like that, where I left my feet over the top rope backwards.
Mm.
People thought they killed me, right? If you ever go back and watch it, you're like, oh my God. He's kicking me and punching me, and he meant business. He was laying it in. I mean, he was stiff. Guys told me, he said, Vito, if you would have fought back, it would have been a hell of a fist fight, because I had a reputation of being a tough guy. Not bragging, but I held my own. When I laid out on the power bomb and he gave it to me again, and I got stretched out, nobody called for it. Paul Lee ran from the top. The guys came down. They wheeled me in. And Taz and Dreamer and Paul, are you okay? Are you all right? I says, yeah. Is everything okay? He says, you're not hurt. I says, no. I said, I thought that's what you wanted. Understanding what the promoter wants and understanding what the boss wants. He said, Vito, he says, you just earned flying rights. You have a job here at ECW, because I did that without them telling me.
Sure. You know the business of what it is.
Exactly.
Sid is here. We got to get Sid over and build him. Vito is a legit tough guy, and people know it. And he kicked Vito's ass, and Vito doesn't need to go, I'm a legit tough guy. I got to show it. Vito's laying down. That makes Sid that much tougher. And that's the psychology of wrestling, boys and girls. That's what a real worker. Because if you jumped up and punched Sid, is your envelope going to change when you are getting it at the end of the night?
Less, or you might not get booked.
Right, possibly. But you wouldn't have no invite back.
You understand the business and the psychology.
Sure.
That is what is missing today. Now let's jump ahead 20 years. AEW, WWE, Raw, and SmackDown. That is what is missing today in the business because nobody sells nothing.
Yeah, I mean, if you sold twice as much and got half as much offense, this business would be better off. But there's still a lot of holes in the game, whether it's knowing what your character is, not booking for an audience of one because they have 20 to 30-year-olds speaking like a 70-year-old. Not even really. They have them speaking like King Arthur and Hamlet and things like that. Like they're so out of touch with what they're doing to try and please Vince that it's the characters aren't there and nobody's being made to be a star. And then I have issues with both of those companies in the fact of, I know Pat Buck is there, Adam Pearce, Abyss, Sanjay Dutt, Jamie Noble, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, all of those guys I've seen work incredibly competent matches where they sell and do the right business. In AEW, we have Arn Anderson, Jake the Snake Roberts, Dean Malenko, Jerry Lynn, Taz, Sting, JR, and like, you know,
Billy Gunn, and you have Billy Gunn.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, how is none of this getting agented the right way? Why? Because unfortunately, and JR is the only one who's been put to the test this week. Unfortunately, these old workers are doing just that. They're just working this kid for a paycheck, and they really don't care about passing the business on. Like Goldust too, man. I just don't know how Dustin can be in the cut there and coming up with Cody at OVW, how these things can be allowed to not even do a simple things. No one can do a hot tag. No one can do a double down. There's a dive and people are fighting out of the match fighting outside the ring in the first match on the card. Everything is stripped to the bone. Segment one. What's anybody else supposed to do? You got 350-pound guys who should be doing Ultimate Warrior spots, doing tope con hilos over the top rope on guys half their size. And it's a falsie. Like how are guys like Billy Gunn not going timeout, stop everything? You guys are great athletes, but you don't know what you're doing and you're ruining wrestling for the future because the youngest generation of indie guys who see those dudes on TV thinking that's the right thing to do, we are bastardizing our art form to an extent that it might not be able to be repaired, bro, to be honest with you.
Now, when it comes to AEW, I said this, and this is not a knock against the individual. This is a knock against the business. Okay. Dustin Rhodes, he was named the Natural because he is a natural wrestler. He was gifted. Didn't have to, and if he wasn't Dusty Rhodes' son, he still would have made a name.
Absolutely.
Talk about Cody Rhodes. Now, I have nothing against him. He was given 5 or 6 opportunities in the WWE, couldn't get over one gimmick. He goes, he was in OVW, right? If he wasn't Dusty Rhodes' son, he would have been a kid with black hair, black trunks. They never would have gave him a second look. This is being the son of somebody, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's
AEW.
A whole new part of the wrestling business, the second and third generation nepotism. Absolutely.
Right. Comes to AEW. He's the boss. Now, I respect for what the walk he's walked because it's tough, right? You get there, and he's trying to be a tough guy, a fan favorite, a heel, get over, be his father, have the charisma. It's just not there. It's just not, you're not feeling it. When he took the chair shot for Short Spears, that was supposed to be, hey, I'm tough. When he did the moonsault off the top of the cage, okay, you did a moonsault off the top of the cage. Anybody talking about it today? No. You broke your toe. You could have broke your neck. When you talk about where you've been in the business, the boys should never book and be in charge because you can't own and book in the wrestling business. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there to unpack. I can go back to so I agree with you on a lot of that, and I have to disagree with you on my view of them of kind of being the not have it thing. So,
No, go ahead, give it to me. Give it to me. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, because Cody versus Sean Spears, who's a guy that's been there's a guy who's been marginalized since and he's got
he looked like Randy Orton, and they cut him.
Yeah, I
good
mean,
body, good look, good this, good that, and nothing.
And gets himself over, which is the worst thing you can do, right? With the perfect 10 thing. So, but in OVW, Sean versus Cody, even I'm talking ECW, WWF, WCW, I watched it all. Sean versus Cody, the way Al booked that was one of the best feuds, and it still stands up to this day. And Cody was only 21, 22 years old. Now, why is that? Because Cody sold, and he was underneath the whole time. Now he comes out and says, I don't want to be Triple H, but does 90% of what Triple H does instead of do as I say, not as I do. I mean, even his new entrance, which is spectacular, just debuted on TV out of nowhere. It's like giving yourself perks to make yourself shine and restarting his wife in 6 different gimmicks. Like, if you're going to be an owner, you got to lay out and show that you're not going into business for yourself. And it's been the opposite of that. And at the same time, here's the shady worker side. He might have Khan wrapped around his finger, but Cody has parlayed that into a reality TV show of being on like the game show thing that he's doing. Right. He's got a deal with Bravo with Stephen Amell to do his heels wrestling drama. He was the TNT champion, and there's the problem. If Cody would have booked himself under for 3 years straight, and he never held a title, so no one could say nothing to him, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now, dude. TNT supposedly wanted him. They put the strap on him. And the fact that they just said, yeah, I'll do it, is enough to keep the network quiet. But someone should have said, network, come here, sit down and shut up. I'm going to explain to you for 10 minutes why it's way more important for me to lose for 3 years to climb the mountain. So when I do it, it's on the show where we beat Monday Night Raw definitively, double their ratings, and I'm on top, and I get the big payoff that we've been working for this whole time. So that was the moment where it went from the prodigal son that is got the wrestling dream to being self-serving and egregious in the eyes of the wrestling world, in my opinion. But the guy, to me, whether it was him and Punk, and I feel some kind of way about Punk a little bit, but taking the boys out to dinner, I've seen him foot the bill for 15 guys who were eating ramen noodles, and not just the big league people, but to be like, I know I'm Dusty's kid and I got to give back, and I'm not doing it to make you owe something. So I've seen him not be the dude that is Triple H-esque. And I'm sure Triple H can be some kind of way as a human being sometime too, because he came up through Killer Kowalski's set and he worked his ass off to get to where he was. But with Cody, I think the let me get mine instead of worrying about the company has gone by the wayside, and he's on a trajectory into his own.
Now, another guy I have a problem with, okay, and this, I have been so on top of this, you have no idea how mad I am about this. You got a guy named Kenny Omega,
okay,
supposed to be the greatest wrestler of our era, our new era, phenomenal in Japan, matches, everything. When he comes to the States, he is so vanilla, makes me sick. He's got no charisma. He's got nothing. Now, he wins the title after a while. He goes into business with Don Callis And the Bullet Club and all these guys sit slouched, looks like the smallest person in the room, doesn't say nothing, doesn't dress in a suit, a tie, new haircut, sunglasses, jewelry, being that guy,
Being a
who
superstar.
yeah, being that guy who he wanted to be in the WWE. That's why the WWE never hired him, because they saw he was vanilla. He is on TV. He went to Impact. Big fucking deal. He's on AEW. He doesn't move the needle. Who moves the needle? But a guy named Sting comes back. Oh, we jumped to almost 1 million. Kenny Omega's champion. They lose viewers. He is vanilla. You couldn't tell him from a guy who's working in Walmart in a crowd to being the world heavyweight champion of AEW. Makes me sick, because there's a guy who has got all the talent, but he is not taking advantage of his own. Doesn't have that Big Vito ECW swag. Like, I'm going to kick the shit out of 15,000.
He did have it. That's the disappointing.
But where is it now?
Yeah, man, I was working 2CW. After I left OVW, I was fortunate enough to get to 2CW, which is kind of the bastard child of ECW, because it was made by ECW fans and has that Northeast. We were able to recapture that. So a lot of these AEW guys and even the foundation that made them indie darlings came from 2CW in the Northeast. We ran New York. There was nobody else. Now New York's chopped up into 5 territories again. But for 8-9 years, New York was all 2CW. No one could run against them at all. So when the Bucks were coming through, and we booked the Young Bucks a bunch versus Dudley Boys, I mean, the teams that you wanted to see pass the torch and do these types of things, and highlight them to make them that. Well, we brought Omega in toward the end, and that was after he had done that bit with the blow-up doll and the little girl not wrestling the 9-year-old. Before he kind of became the badass cleaner. It was like right before that. They were going back and forth to Japan, right? So I was doing an interview for WrestleZone, trying to rib him in character about, yes, you can beat me. I'm not a 9-year-old girl. But then afterwards, he's like, we're going to do something that's going to change wrestling. You're going to see. And I could see in his eyes that he was deadly serious. They had the drive. Now, to me, the Bullet Club is Kenny and the Bucks and maybe 1 or 2 of the Japanese guys or whatever when it was cool.
So AJ Styles and the
I gotta tell you, here comes Good Brothers and AJ, and they're cool and they can get over their Briz Cliz talk and all that shit, but they're not the originals. They're the hangers on. They kind of rounded it out. Then we get more hangers on, Adam Cole and those guys, and we get Cody. And Cody and them start working PWG out west where Khan is hanging out or what have you. And that's where they kind of corner him and bring him into the clique to be the money mark and start working this AEW thing around based off of all the swag of 2CW and New Japan, right? So I watch all this happening 2015, 2016, 2017. And Omega's on his rise, but now, dude, I've heard the stories that he just kind of mails it in, sits in his office. Like the wrestlers who love their lifestyle, who thought it was going to be fun to run a wrestling company. Nobody gave them the precursor to run a wrestling company. They just went from stars to all the bullshit. And if you don't know how to do that, that will kick you in the nuts super hard and super fast to the point that you're wearing Walmart shirts out for commentary instead of wearing your own t-shirt that you'd want to be selling on AEWshop.com.
Now, there's a guy who's in the chat. He is my good friend for many years.
Yeah.
We roomed together. We lifted together. We used to have shrugging contests where we've got up to 725, 750 pounds.
Jesus, I'm out at 450.
Now, let me tell you something. We separated the men from the boys. When they were having a tough time lifting 330, and Skull Von Crush comes. What are you guys doing? Give me this shit. Click, 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 click. Bang. A bunch of jobbers go in the friggin' steam room, do a bunch of squats.
Threw up in the corner real quick.
No, not me. Man.
Come on, one time. give me one win. I'm a made guy now.
My good friend, and I've been friends with him for 20 years or better from the 90s, Val Venus.
Oh, yeah, man.
You talk about a guy who was
Sure.
in Puerto Rico, went to Mexico, okay, hooked up with Victor Quinones, okay, got his Japan run, got into the WWE, and I believe he was with the sorority club with the ties. I'm not sure the name. Then they turned him into Val Venus. And you talk about a guy who wrestled as and did a gimmick. And when you talk about a guy who was so not that guy, Val Venus, very modest, very quiet. What did you think of his transformation into this supermodel, hot, good-looking, blonde hair guy? Tell me.
Well, if he's in the chat now, big shout out Val, because we definitely are trying to have him on the Conspiracy Horseman. Last week we had Tim Alberino talking about his new book, but we definitely want to have Val on because a lot of his ideologies that he throws out online are right in line with the reality of what we're trying to speak. So, and I appreciate every bump he's ever taken. So I'll start there. But
I don't. He sucked. He was a jobber. But go ahead.
But here's the thing with Val Venus, and if he was one thing and they gave him this, or he came up with it and wanted to go with it, especially during that 1997 renaissance of sexuality, that 93 to 98 mentality, he hit it at the right time, right? But here's the truth with anything, whether it's gold dust, whether it's the Paisan gimmick or the porn star gimmick, it's about commitment to the bit. This beard, my wife hate it. I hate sleeping with it. It rolls over on your face. It sucks, but it's tough to play a Muslim extremist without looking the part, isn't it? So
you're right. You got to lift your beard, but and do stuff when you have
dude, every bite I take, trying to eat soup, all that shit.
I was there at one time. I had maybe a quarter inch of hair. I had to run and shave it.
But that's that's commitment to the bit, to the character. Because otherwise I'm just trying to do something and the rest of it's not there and I'm lazy. Val Venus, not lazy. How many people, I want anybody listening to this to get up now, go put a towel on and start gyrating your hips with your leg and do the Rick Rude gyration and then go put boots on and do it. See how weird it feels to walk around your house in your underwear and boots on.
Go put heels on it. Yeah, so you get them. It's easy for me.
Then we round it out with great VTR packages with hot chicks with the steaminess and the squeeziness of the voice and hello ladies, and like to find the character in there. Boy, we know all about him, and when he comes to your town, you better lock up your sister, your auntie, your divorced mom. Otherwise, he might be making eggs in your kitchen in the morning. You know what I mean?
There are stories I could tell you about Val Venus, and if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't have seen the light of day. I tell you, but that's a different show.
Well, thank you for bringing them to us.
All right. Ben Hamin, we have had an action-packed show. Please give your plugs. Let's call it a day. I hope you'll come on next week if you have time, because the people seem to enjoy it. Ben, go give me your plugs.
Yeah, you can get free media. That's what I'm really all about. Just check out Hacker Hamin, all one word, and Hamin Media Group on your iTunes. We're on hackerhamin.podbean.com. It's an all-free platform. We're doing wrestling review shows. We have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday locker room show, NXT, AEW, and Impact reviews, along with the Conspiracy Horseman, which is plenty of your good ECW brothers with Big Sal, Greek God popping on, and the Stevie Richards talking conspiracy at the highest level through wrestlers' point of view, and people seem to really love it. We've had great guests, and we're going to have even more lined up, and I hope Val Venus will join us there soon, because I know we're trying to get that the stars line for that. But if you want to hear what I'm doing in the official Rip Rogers FR podcast, my mentor, you can go to patreon.com/Hamin Media Group, and I got plenty of tiers over there. I can give away my marketing secrets. I have watch-alongs with my career as well. And as always, you can check me out on Russo Brand, whether it's his Patreon doing that Master Shoot Theater, pal. Yeah, you never know when Vince might show up. And Vito, I got something else for you to wear, pal. It's something you're not going to the ring. You're going to put this on and come back to the office. I'm going to give you a big raise, pal. But we're having a good time with it all, and I'm honored to be able to work alongside the ECW legends and WWE legends that influenced my life through great performances. So I want to say thank you very much for having me on your brand, bro.
All right. You heard it from Ben Hamin. This is the man with the plan. He has finally arrived and been someplace. So we can never say, where's Ben, where you been?
Yeah, I'm a made guy. I'm a made guy.
You're a made guy. All right. It's the Big Vito brand coming to you live, baby live. We're closing the show. Guys, I'm going to let the wife take it from here. Can you give our plugs? And we're going to cut it short.
Yeah, well, you're not cutting it short. You did a full show, but I love you anyway. Guys, make sure you click that button to subscribe to the Big Vito brand right here on Twitch. Also, too, we are going to have this available for you tomorrow morning on Big Vito brand audio. Anywhere you listen to Big Vito brand podcasts, we're available on your Alexa devices. We're available at iHeartRadio, Pandora, all those fun places. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. Make sure you stay tuned. Virtue's going to join us in just a minute or two.
All right. Thank you very much. This was Getting Color with Ben Hamin. Ben, we'll see you next week. Same time, same bat channel. Peace.
All right.